Imagine arriving at work tomorrow and finding a highly intelligent machine ready to assist you. This machine could learn, adapt, and even help you take the most complex of decisions. How would you feel about that? Would you feel a little anxious maybe that it might take your job? Would you feel excited by the possibilities? Personally, I would feel a bit of both, right? To explore this, let's step into the shoes of Sarah, a typical quality control inspector at a manufacturing plant. She takes a lot of pride in her work and her meticulous eye for detail for detecting errors in her products. Then, one day, the company decides to introduce an AI to help her. Initially, it transforms her job for the better. The AI takes over the more repetitive part of her job that she doesn't necessarily love. She gets to focus on the more innovative and creative aspects of her job. She feels completely empowered. But as time passes, the AI learns, it adapts, and it starts taking over more and more decision-making aspects of her work. She feels increasingly sidelined, watching the AI do tasks that she once did herself. Right? And as a consequence, her autonomy, the feeling of control she has in her job goes down, her motivation, the purpose that she feels when she does her job also takes a dip. And finally, her engagement, how much effort she's willing to put in her job. She starts to wonder, are my skills really being valued here, or should I find a new job? Fair question. This is the reality that's facing many blue-collar workers today in the manufacturing sector. According to Forbes, 70% of companies worldwide, manufacturing companies, have implemented AI in some form or another. And another 82% have increased their budget this year alone. So AI is here to stay, and that's why we're here, right? But what we're seeing, fortunately, at least in manufacturing, is that AI is collaborating with workers and not replacing them. And this is because AI and humans working together, scientifically or on average, leads to the best efficiency compared to humans or AI working by themselves. Right? This is true in manufacturing. So this is leading to more human AI teams in the workplace. Right? And this fundamentally changes the nature of human work. Right? It's a new kind of collaboration that hasn't existed before, really. And it raises the following question that hasn't been answered yet. What is the psychological impact of this new kind of human-AI collaboration? How do workers really feel about interacting with AI that has a risk of possibly taking their job or at least taking over some decision-making aspect of their job? So we read a variety of industry reports, government reports, and we did a systematic literature review on all the human-AI collaboration literature in manufacturing. It was long. The paper actually got accepted today. I got the notification a few hours ago. On the final day of the Ivado grant, so it was like a poetic justice in a way for all that work. What we found, we didn't find too much research. A lot of it was projections about what would happen, how would the workers feel. And what it said is that AI, unfortunately, has the potential to reduce the scope of human decision-making and limit their creativity at the same time. Now, when we read the papers, what this could mean is a potential impact on the control a person feels in their job. So their autonomy, their motivation at work, how much effort they want to put in, and the meaning itself of the job, right? Long term, this has serious impacts on the retention. It's already hard to recruit skilled employees in the manufacturing sector. If you can't keep them, we're going to have a problem. Also, it affects their well-being and their performance in the long term. So, like I said, there wasn't much research, tangible research that was done. We wanted to experimentally assess the psychological impact. And we were fortunate enough to have access to a beautiful factory, as you see here. This is the actual factory in Annecy, France, in France. And there we were able to observe quality control workers like Sarah in their natural environment, their routines, their challenges, their interactions with technology. And what we did is we took a portion of their factory and put it in our lab to be able to test it. So basically, we recruited over 100 participants, and they were tasked with detecting defects in snowshoes. That's the product the factory was using. So we took the exact same products, we took them to the lab, and we artificially inserted defects, and participants had to find them, basically. And participants were exposed to one of three scenarios. In the first scenario, they were working by themselves without any kind of AI to help them find the errors. In the second one, they were AI assisted in the sense that the AI suggested a decision, but the final decision-making authority remained on the human, right? So the human could override the AI, accept or not the decision. But in the final one, AI-driven, here, the worker just had to implement the decision that was taken by the AI, basically kind of becoming a robot in the system. And the results we found were quite interesting. We first looked at error detection performance, so how well they were able to detect errors in the snowshoes. We first compared the two AIs, so AI-assisted and AI-driven, and we found no difference in performance, which is quite interesting. But where we found the difference is when we compared the human only to the two AIs. Specifically, they were 5% more performant when they used one of the two AIs compared to the human only. Now, 5% doesn't seem like a lot, but if the company is producing 1 million snowshoes per year, that's 50,000 that are correctly identified as having an error or not. So we honed in on those two AIs to see if there was a difference psychologically, if the workers felt any differently between the two types of AIs. And we found some very significant results in the sense that when they were in the AI-assisted scenario, this is where they had the decision-making control, they were 24% more autonomous. So they felt 24% more in control of the tasks they were doing. Also, they were 31% more motivated, so self-determined motivation in this case, but they felt 31% more motivated, more empowered in this case. Similar story with meaningfulness. So they found the task itself to be 25% more meaningful when they were in the AI-assisted scenario. And let's be honest, the task is not super meaningful. So, it's like looking at snowshoes, like 30 snowshoes per hour and trying to figure out if there's an error. So the 25% is quite telling. And finally, they were 34% more engaged in the task. This means that they were willing to put 34% more energy in completing the job compared to the other one. So they were really bored when it was AI-driven, basically. So overall, what our results say is that when the human is assisted by the AI and they retain certain decision-making authority, it leads to the best outcomes in terms of our psychological variables: autonomy, motivation, meaningfulness, and engagement. In terms of error detection performance, they were equal between the AIs. This means that although we didn't look at the long term, but in the long term we could see a great rise, and maybe they're going to be more performant over time in the AI-assisted scenario, or they're going to be even more motivated over time. I'll talk about that later. So what we've seen from Sarah's story and our results is that AI can be an ally or a friend in the workplace, or a challenging force, so a foe in the workplace. It's important to design AI in a human-centered way. What this means, in our case, is to value the decision-making aspect of the job. Let the human retain the decision-making power. In that case, we create a work environment where AI empowers, but doesn't dehumanize the human under work, so that workers like yourself and Sarah can continue to feel pride, joy, meaning, and engagement in your work. Thank you.